We are now looking at the left screen of my big two monitors, and on the left screen you will see the Traincontroller software layout and design for programming train rides or train routes, and a couple of locomotive commands are still available, so I have placed here a couple of them on this screen as well to directly give commands to locomotives, and maybe I can do this, and this is here a locomotive, and maybe I just hit on the horn. Okay, you have heard the horn, so here I can directly trigger commands manually to locomotives. Basically, you find the layout which you already know from my WindTrack track design software. This is the train depot in the basement level. This is the ground level setup, and the outer blocks here are the tracks on the mountain level, which go over here, and then which go over here and then come down here again. I'll show you how to how our train ride is programmed. So, for example, I just hit on one of these 263 train routes. I just pick one, and you see that the train ride or train route here starts at the main train station at track number 4 and goes this way to the train depot into this track where the train is parked. Okay, so I can start this, of course, manually, this train route, or it starts automatically, but the train will only go through this way when the tracks are available, and the tracks can be reserved by this train route. If there is a locomotive, for example, on this train block waiting to go in here at some other track block, the train will only start going and will stop here, because this track one is this track block is reserved. And of course, all turnouts are switched in the right direction. And there is another thing which one must mention: if a track block is marked with a blue line, like these 4 are, a train will not go into such a marked block if it cannot go out of the block immediately. So a train starting here will only start if it can reach without any stop this track which has not this blue marking. That's one of the many features of the Traincontroller software, and we can take a look whether this train ride or train route has at certain train blocks certain digital commands. For that, on the other screen you cannot see it. I have to switch into editing modus, and then I go to the stop. Green is here the train route starts, here the train route stops. Okay, so let me just double click on this, and I see under actions, of course this software can be also installed in English language. It says here there are a couple of digital commands possible, command point possible. The train comes into this block, it gets the command to start slowing down. This is the stop command, and this is the command go on, so go out of this track block. And this is if the track block with all the sections is available for another train, then it is released for other trains, and then it turns white again Okay, let's look at stop, and there it says list. So at the stop there is a list saved behind, and in this list it shows, okay, if the stop of the train is activated, so this train comes to a halt, then it takes 5 seconds, and then the lamps go out, the motor, the diesel motor goes out, and there's a bell. This goes out as well. Of course the bell has started at some point in time, and that is in each of these blocks you can program what happens to the locomotive. So what I just showed you with the horn here, you know, this you can program at any point in this train route for specifically this locomotive. If you want to program a block independently, commands of the block independently from the trains, you have to do this on the right monitor of the Traincontroller software, which you cannot just see right now because the video mechanism which I just have in place uses the right monitor. So what I have to do is I have to move the right monitor to the left monitor, which I'll do at this moment. So here you will see the right monitor, I mean, this is so heavily used that I can only explain to you a couple of things. I have other videos on my video channel for specific functions, so if you are interested in more details you can look at my other videos, and there are many other YouTube colleagues which explain certain functionalities of the Traincontroller software. Again, if I have not the editing modus but the operating modus, the red blocks are the ones which are occupied, and it shows the name of the trains or the locomotive. And if I switch on the editing modus, then you see the track numbers, like here, train depot, track 101. Okay, so if I'm just, we had just seen this track here, train depot, where we looked at what this locomotive does when it comes in here, and I double click on this one, sorry, it just doesn't open anything. Here it comes, and then you see, and you remember from my explanations in the architecture part of the video. This block has 3 sections. This is the beginning section, this is the middle section, that's the end section. And what you see here, if a train comes into this track block from left to right, then in this block there is no action point, but in this point you have an action 60 centimeters after this section has started. There is a yellow command point, and the yellow command points always say the train has to ramp down with its speed now. And you give the lengths here, there is a little number 70. I hope you can see this on the video. It's a little bit small. Maybe I can enlarge it. Let me see whether this works. No, it doesn't. It won't get larger. Sorry. So it says the ramp from the current speed down to 0 is 70 centimeters, and here you program basically that the train comes to a neat stop in front of the signal and doesn't pass by the signal and comes to a halt later than the red signal. And here at the red point, this is the stop point, and the stop point is 30 centimeters after the third section has started. So once the train is now ramping down at speed, and then it starts to go into this third section, and after 30 centimeters there is a stop command to the train, you know. And all trains will come to a halt in here. If you have a track or a block with more stop points, which you can do and have as well, like here, You have here a stop point 20 centimeters after the last section has started. Once it comes to this direction, then you'll see here, if you open up this one, that again this is trains. If there's nothing in here, it means every train will stop here. But then if you look up this one, this is 5 centimeters after the last section has started. So there are a couple of trains which have a bigger momentum of the motors and need a little longer to stop smoothly. So you see here 3 trains are programmed in here. So again, also a block, first of all, it's the nature of a block, has commands valid for all trains running through this block. You can start giving and restricting certain command points to certain tracks, to certain trains only. These ones, for example, the yellow ones, are train should slow down. So this train coming this direction would have a command here, train slow down, and the number in here is 180, so 180 centimeters or 280 centimeters. Yeah, 280 centimeters or 2.8 meters. It's a very long block. And here you have 110 centimeters, but this command point to slow down the train is only activated 1 meter after the train has entered this block. So you have all possibilities in here, either commands for all trains regardless which trains comes in, or you start restricting the specific commands to certain trains. Red and yellow ones are those who set a train speed. Green ones, not in here in this case, set the speed as well. So red ones, of course, set the speed 0. Train or locomotive has to stop. The gray ones are commands for other functions, like, for example, initiating and triggering a horn, or starting a bell, whatever functions there are. Okay, so this gives you a short overview about the train controller software. I move this back to where it belongs to. Now I want to show you one more thing just in a minute, just to give you a very good impression on how to manually start trains from here to there, and this we'll do just in a second. I want to show you now how to move a train manually from one track to another. So I have the right screen still moved to the left screen. This is the right screen, and it is laid over the left screen, so you see here still the left screen for good reason, because we're now manually having this train here, this locomotive, go from its train depot track to track 1 in our main train station. This is this locomotive. It is ÖBB, which is the Austrian Railroad. The locomotive number is 1116. Okay, so if you want to go with this train from here to here in an automated way, but you start it manually, then you hit first on this little button as starting point, and then on this little button as point to end. You could also, but then you are fully manual, start sliding this speed upwards in the direction to the front, of course. But then you would have to manually adjust all the turnouts and have to look out that there is no other train or locomotive or coach or car on the way from here to there. So various possibilities to manually drive a train. I will now use these buttons from here to there, and we'll see what happens. So this is a manually started train ride from a starting track block to an end track point, but protected. If there is some train or coach or car in the way, this train will stop and not go into the occupied block. If the block is free on its way, then it is programmed that it looks ahead 3 blocks and reserves 3 blocks. So we will see, because there are not many blocks, it goes from here, this is 1 block, 2nd block, 3rd block, 4th block, so it's 5 blocks until it arrives at the main train station. So let's just do this and see what happens. I will switch the sound on, so you hear this a little bit in the background, and you can observe the speed the locomotive or the train is running. So let's just wait until everything has started here. The noise has come up, and now I program it from here. I may click on here, and I make another click on here, and that means, and I see now that these tracks have been reserved. This track has been reserved, this one not yet, and the main station also not yet. So you see that the track blocks get red as soon as the locomotive enters the block. So let's look at this one here. Now the train has entered this block. It has reserved again, looking ahead, the main train station. It goes over here and finally ends up in the train block, in the track block and the main train station, and comes to a halt in front of the red signal. The signal is red here. You can see this, so the train stops here. We are now taking a look on how this looks in nature on my model railroad. So I start the same train ride once more. Here the train has started. It enters the tunnel below the mountain track. And comes to a halt in the track 1 of the main train station in front of the red signal at the end of this track. We will see this train ride now another time, but from another perspective. It was my full intention to show you exactly this locomotive of the Austrian Railroad. This is a locomotive from the model railroad supplier Roco, and it has a video camera, a miniature video camera in the locomotive on the driver's seat. So you see exactly what the locomotive driver is seeing through his front window. And at this point in time, this train with this locomotive is in its train depot station. By the way, you see one or both of my 2 big monitors here back on the wall. You see here the other train station with a clock here on the platform. And we're starting now the same train ride from this train depot station to main train station 1. Okay, so I click here again and once more set this track as end track, and we'll see how the locomotive now starts. First thing is goes into a tunnel under the mountain track. And by the way, when it shortly before it comes into the train station, you can even see me. Here you can see me also, some shelves. So goes around here and enters now the main train station and comes neatly in front of the red signal to a stop. So this is really neat. I will now bring with an automated control this train back into its train depot station, and we'll take just a short look on this as well. Okay, you see the lamp turns green, this locomotive starts, goes into the track underneath the mountain track, stops there. You hear the brake squeals, and then moves backwards into its train depot track. So this is a very, very neat locomotive. It is very impressive to see my model railroad through the perspective of a locomotive driver, and this makes really much fun to watch this through the whole train ride, and I just wanted to show you this as an interesting feature as well. This is the video locomotive of Rocco, which I've just now showed to you, and here the locomotive and the train has stopped in the train depot station, and automatically the sound of the locomotives goes off. Okay, so far for that.